Hello, my name's Andrew Brooks, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And once again, I'm going to be joined by my friends James Griffiths and John Heaton, and we're going to be looking at Driving Rain, in my mind, Paul's worst album. However, watch to the end, and you may be surprised. So, welcome to part one. Here we are once again, and with my good friends John Heaton over in Budapest, and James, who is, remind me again, James, up north somewhere?
Yeah, in Lancaster.
In Lancaster, that's right. Well, today's topic we decided on was Driving Rain, Macca's album from, when was it, 90? Yeah, oh yeah, hang on, I've got mine as well.
2001.
When was it, 2001, was it? Right,
yeah.
Thanks, John. Yeah, so let's crack on with it, shall we? What is there really to be said? Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll go first, okay, if you like. I mean, I think the cover is dire, and as we've said, you know, if it was a better cover, maybe people would be less critical of it. But and also the opening track, "Lonely Road," to me is a dreadful. Talk about stranglehold. Lonely Road is a dreadful opening number. You know, there's far better music on the album. And my main criticism of the album is it's too long.
Right.
I don't think it's thriving pain, as Joe Mayer says. And I think it's got a lot of merits. You know, obviously it's associated with his time with Heather. So
yeah, well, I read that this was the third part of a trilogy. After Linda, so obviously you had Flaming Pie, which was like Linda's last album with him, and then you had a bit of a throwback to his roots with Run Devil Run, and then he's got, this is like the third part of a trilogy after her death, and it's sort of like a sort of a remembrance album, but it's also a kind of asking permission album. This is what I read somewhere. I wish I could find the quote. But I found it a bit of an asking permission album as well. So, to move on, and a permission to move on, I think.
Well, it was quite a significant record in the sense that it was his first studio album of new stuff after Linda's death, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So I seem to remember buying it and being quite curious to find out what he was going to be singing about and what the mood was going to be. And the cover, as John says, it's so kind of grey and monochrome and dreary. It doesn't really set it up very well. And I actually disagree with John. I really like the track "Lonely Road." I mean, I'm not mad on this album altogether. I think, as usual with McCartney, it's a bit of a mishmash. You know, there are so many McCartney albums which are just a bit of a grab bag, and I don't think this one is particularly any different in that sense. And I think "Lonely Road," "From a Lover to a Friend," "She's Given Up Talking," all three of those tracks, they're quite interesting. They're kind of a bit sort of grungy, a bit kind of introspective. They're quite kind of interesting, moody kind of songs, and I think the album actually starts quite well. And then, as usual with McCartney, he's not able to sustain the mood. So as the album gets going, you start to get tracks that you just think, it's a shame he didn't manage to maintain the mood of those first three tracks, which they all seem to belong together. And then it starts to just do the usual McCartney thing, which is just to go off at tangents, and you just get the sense that just kind of random songs that he's just chucked together to make a record, rather than thinking, let's actually make an album here.
Well, for me, this has always been Paul's worst album ever, for me. And after listening to it many times this week leading up to our chat, I've actually grown to like it. I think it's something that I haven't given it a chance earlier on, and again, it's very similar to McCartney 3 in I actually had a leak of MP3s of the album about a week before it came out, so I was listening to these dreadful MP3s, which I'd got on the day he did a performance at a theatre in the West End of poetry. It was like National Poetry Day, and I'd got it that day. So I was listening to it, and it just sounds like on the copy I had, it just sounds like demos. You think to yourself, oh, they're dreadful. and I dismissed it. It didn't have Freedom on it because I think that was added at a later, like, last minute thing.
Unfortunately.
Yes, yeah. Funny enough, I was having a discussion with someone about Freedom, and they were saying how the sentiment is right, and I said, yeah, the sentiment's fine. It's just an awful song. It's kind of like Give People a Chance. It's got a great sentiment, but it's an awful song. I mean, probably John won't agree with that, but yeah. So I found Freedom very similar to that, and you know, it was just tacked on the end of this album because it's not even included on the track listing.
Well, as John says, I mean, it's a really long album, and if you cut the album off with track 12, Back in the Sunshine Again, you think, okay, there's a sort of 12-track record, you know, nice number of songs. But not only do you have the extra 3 tracks, but then you've got this Rinse the Raindrops, which just goes on and on and on and on, and it's like, oh my God, you know.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, I've never got on with it. Just this endless. I think it's just such a repetitive lyric. It's like if he'd done something with it lyrically, I don't know.
It is. I mean, it's a bit of a jam, and I'm not one for jams. I mean, I'll skip Apple Jam on All Things Must Pass every day of the week. But listening to this, it's a jam, and it does go away and it comes back again. And as you say, it's repetitive lyrics, but I actually quite enjoyed. And it's about 10 minutes, I think, 10-minute song. So. What's your thoughts on that one, John?
I think it's one of the weakest tracks on the album.
There you
Rinse
go.
the Raindrops. I would have ended the album before Back in the Sunshine. What's the track before?
Heather.
It's Heather, which is a great track.
Yeah. I think up until I listened to it the other day, and I was thinking, I'm making my way all the way through this album without turning it off. But I had to, after, I think it was after Heather, after Back in the Sunshine, I thought, oh no. It's another 4 tracks to go.
Yeah.
And we need albums which are 65 minutes long. We really don't. You know, because 35 is Rubber Soul they got it right with Rubber Soul, you know.
The thing is, though, this was the period when everybody was doing the same thing. It wasn't just McCartney doing it. It was that kind of era, kind of late 90s, early noughties, when people were just ramming their CDs full of tracks, secret tracks, bonus tracks, hidden tracks. And it was
also, I was going to say, also, it's the time when LPs were disappearing. You know, no one bought LPs. And with a CD, obviously, you can cram far more on a CD than you can on a single album. So,
difficult to know where this thing started, but something like Be Here Now from Oasis was so long, and it had good moments on it, but it was just way too long. And that was the follow-up to Morning Glory, and it could have been glorious because it's got some good stuff on there, even though they were head full of coke or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, so you mentioned about Heather being a great track, and I don't remember it being a great track, but playing it this week, I think it is. It's a great melody, and the lyrics that he uses in it are fantastic. All apart from that creepy that he sort of whispers in the background of it, but the rest of it, I think it's a great track.
I love the way that the vocal doesn't come in for ages.
Yeah,
I've always liked tracks where you think it's an instrumental and then all of a sudden it starts, you know, it kind of finally goes into a song. I've always liked that. And I think the track is unfortunately named because, you know, Heather Mills had the most terrible reputation, not particularly at this time, but, you know, after all the fallout from the divorce and everything, she became an absolutely, you know, really hated figure. And every time I pull this album out to listen, I see that track, I see Heather, and my immediate thought is, you know, skip that. And because just purely because it's called Heather, and then it comes on and you think, actually, this is a really good song, you know.
If you took that Heather out of the lyric, because it doesn't mention it, and it doesn't mention the name anywhere else, and change the title, we could probably get away with it.
Yeah, call it Barbara or something.
I nearly persuaded my son Richie to come on this video and talk about Driving Rain because he quite likes this album, and Heather is one of his favorite tracks.
And he didn't want to come on.
Well, I did persuade him to do Led Zeppelin 3 with me, which I've just done.
Excellent.
Oh, superb. Excellent.
I wanted to do an album which was not in my comfort zone because he's more familiar with Led Zeppelin than I am. So that's his turn to show off his knowledge.
With his vocal, just cutting back to Paul's voice, I think this is probably one of the last tracks when he's still got his old voice. You can hear the new sort of raspy, croaky voice coming through on a couple of the tracks, but most of them,
I agree.
He's still got his strong voice.
Well, I think this album is possibly his final gasp with his original voice in a way. I mean, you can hear it straining. One thing that I do find hard work about this record as it goes through, I do find that his voice, he's tearing his throat more and more. He's doing this thing where he's straining, he's trying to reach the high notes all the time, and you can tell it's starting to rip his throat. I can't quite remember which tracks I'm talking about, but there seems to be more and more tracks as it goes through that you're thinking, it would have been nice if he'd pitched this one down a bit.
Yeah,
it's this sort of constant thing which McCartney likes to do, which is to try to push himself up into that register, but it's still recognizably Paul McCartney. So I mean, we're still, it's not the old croaky voice we've got now. It's definitely it's the McCartney of Tug of War, Pipes of Peace, Press to Play, Flowers in the Dirt, but it's kind of like it's the last phase of it.
Yeah, I made a note of Spinning on an Axis is I think where the new voice is breaking through.
Breaking through, yeah.
So,
I mean, it's
go on.
I was going to say, I've always found this album is fairly interesting because it's kind of like it comes after Flaming Pie, which was largely it was him sort of cruising on all this kind of glory after the anthology. The anthology, it was such a big thing, and it really re-energized everybody's enthusiasm for the Beatles, and all new fans started to get into them again, and you had the Free as a Bird thing. So Flaming Pie just seemed to cruise on this kind of feeling of euphoria, even though it had that kind of autumnal feel, and it was it became associated with Linda's passing, so it sort of had a melody. But this record, it's McCartney doing another album, but there just seems to be no context for it at all. There seems to be no kind of story involved. It's just like, oh my God, it's just another McCartney album.
Yeah,
it's the start of a new decade, and you don't particularly get the sense that he's really tried hard to make to write some great songs. The band was brand new. He just literally just met them. He gave them no time to come up with any arrangements at all, which is crazy, really, because, I mean, you can make an album like that with a completely new, band, but there's got to be something there. There's got to be some sort of, musical alchemy or something. And these guys, I've got to say, I've never liked this band.
Right. Even now?
Even now, I've never liked them. There's something about them. I just find that they don't bring anything to the table for me, which catches my ear or makes me kind of go, oh, this is good. Like if you listen to the Wings albums, listen to Wildlife, Red Rose Speedway, Band on the Run, any of those records.
Yeah.
Things come out of them, guitar sounds, riffs, drums, whatever. This band, I just don't feel like they ever bring anything to McCartney's songs. They're just like a sort of pickup band that
even when you hear them live,
I just don't get much from them at all. They play very loud all the time. That drummer, what's his name?
Abe.
Yeah, he plays the drums like a kid in a drum shop. It's just whacking the drums all the time. There are so many tracks on this record which, if they'd had time to work some nice arrangements out, but you just get this sense that he's just gone in there and gone, let's just whack this down as quickly as we can. I think in his mind he was probably thinking of the kind of early Wings days, and let's go back and do another Wildlife kind of thing. But the Wings musicians, they all seem to have a personality, and they brought something to it, and his band from the Off the Ground, Flowers in the Dirt era as well. Hamish Stewart, you had that really distinctive kind of Scottish voice in there.
Yeah.
Robbie McIntosh, really great guitarist. I don't know, just these guys have just never done it for me.
Yeah, I as you say, it is his new band, and it does make you wonder what his instructions were, because obviously they probably were thinking, oh my God, I can't bring it. I've just got to do what he says. I'll just do whatever he says. And as time has gone on, it doesn't look like they've contributed much, and they're kind of, I guess, like session men. They're musically adept, and they can recreate the old songs, and it makes you wonder what actual contributions they had to
I don't think they had much. I mean, from what I've read, McCartney just basically turned up at the studio. I think they wanted to have some kind of, practice or, do something. But McCartney was like, no, let's just do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And also you've got this producer guy. What's his name? David.
Hang on.
He did Memory Almost Full as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I can't see his name instantly on the.
Was it David Kahn or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. Just looking now.
And what's interesting about him, this is what I always think about him.
Yeah.
What I find interesting about him, right? He's the guy who, when McCartney did Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, he brought in a load of songs, and Nigel Godrich just basically said, "These are all shit. You've got to go and write some better songs." And McCartney was a bit, he was a bit offended, but he did it.
Yeah.
He made this album, and then he went into doing Memory Almost Full, and he brought back all the songs which Nigel had thrown out. This is classic McCartney, so he sort of like through gritted teeth, he did what
was
Godrich wanted him to do. And then as soon as he was gone, he was like, right, now I'm going to do, and he actually said at the time, this is more the kind of album that I'd want to do. It's more laid back. It's, it's got a band on it. And these are the songs that I wanted to do. And the producer that he got to work with him on that is the same guy,
right.
This guy. Yeah. So what that tells me is that this guy, David Kahn, he's one of the yes men. He's one of the yes men producers. He's not a Nigel Godrich. He's not someone who's going to challenge McCartney, make him rewrite stuff, make him rework stuff. He's just there to just push the button on the console and just do what McCartney tells him. And I think that's what this album is all about. Again, really, it's what.
Well, it's interesting to say that because I actually prefer Memory Almost Full to Chaos. I know I'm boats against the current here. But I just think Memory it's more uplift. It's less depressing. Chaos is a very depressing album to listen to because it's all sad songs.
True.
I don't know whether it's autobiographical or not, but Only Mama Knows and That Was Me, I think are just brilliant tracks. And I was discussing this with Richie, my son, and he thinks Memory Almost Full is better. But if you listen to the McCartney community out there, they won't hear a bad word said about Chaos.
No. I as I've said in our previous videos, I'm not a big fan of 21st Century Paul, and this is just re-listening to Drive in Rain is a bit of a breakthrough for me because I've actually played it wanting to play it. I played it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times for this, and then I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm sitting on the tube going to work. I'll stick it on again, and as you say, the first few tracks are really good, and I really enjoy. I mean, I enjoy Lonely Road, and I actually enjoy Drive in Rain. I'm not sure it's the album is a touring album because he toured on it, didn't he? If I remember rightly, in the States. The song Drive in Rain, it's okay. I mean, there's a few crass lyrics in there, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's go for a drive and all that. But there are other parts of it which is not a bad song at all.
Track Your Way, track 8 is one that stands out for me. I think it's Your Way. It's the one where he's sort of playing on his knees again. It's that classic kind of McCartney.
Yeah, and it's a country song. It's got a country feel to it. Country.
To me, Your Way is just a faceless rocker. I mean, this is where we differ, guys. I mean, Andrew, the other day you were praising No Values and Not Such a Bad Boy.
Yeah.
Street, and I don't think they're particularly good rockers, either of them.
Are you sure you got the right track there, John? Your Way is not really a rocker. It's like it's quite a slow.
I'm thinking of.
It's easy to get the tracks mixed up on this record. I do it all the time myself.
What's that crap rocker on Driving Rain?
Is it About You?
Yeah, About You. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Sorry.
That was a thank you song to Heather for helping me get over Linda, apparently. So.
And the worst song on the album is maybe the one that he did with James, I think, which is spinning on an axis, which is really long and tiresome.
Yeah.
It's got a good riff in it, but the song is really like, oh god, just a load of old cobblers, you know. Just hasn't worked on it at all. You know,
There was a couple with James, wasn't there? There was that one, and there was another one I seem to remember somewhere.
Was it Back in the Sunshine again?
Guys,
Yes.
You've missed out. You've missed out. She's given up talking, which I think is great.
Oh, it's
It's
the
really
best song on the
track.
album. Best song on the album.
That one went back a
One of
few
the
years.
best, yeah.
That one was written a few years prior to this record, I think. I think it would, you know, it'd been around for a while.
Yeah, but it's quite an experimental song, isn't it, as well? And it harks back to good old storytelling. It's kind of like Another Day, where he tells the story of the woman going to the office every day. And this is kind of like another little storytelling, not in the same style as Another Day, obviously, but you know, about this strange kid who, you know, won't talk at won't talk at school, and he's got some great lyrics in there about you know, when she gets home, it's like water running from a tap. She won't stop talking, which it's got great lyrics to it.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about asking for forgiveness or whatever. I think you were probably referring to From a Lover to a Friend, which is the track where he's saying, can I love again? Which I think is quite moving. I mean, it's a bit like Only Love Remains in that it's not a classic McCartney ballad, but it's got its moments.
I tell you what I found with this album, the sort of the crossover between Heather and or Linda to Heather. When he was with Linda at the start, you could tell every song was written about Linda. Here, you can't tell on some of the songs. Is he talking about Linda as in a memory and he's asking for permission, or is he now talking about Heather in the same way as he was talking about Linda back in the 70s?
Well, I was watching last week. I was watching Canadian Stud Muffin, Larry, doing his little review of this record, and he'd said something like, "I like the track Magic, but what puts me off is that it's about Heather." And I left a comment on the video saying, actually, that song is about Linda. Magic is about the night that Paul met Linda. Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's a good example of what you're talking about, because you're listening to this record, and it's this guy who's been quite recently bereaved, really, but he's already got this kind of new partner. And this record, it seems like, is this a record which is laying Linda to rest, or is it a record which is celebrating the new person? It's a strange kind of nowhere land.
A little bit unsatisfactory, and the lyrics to that track are ambiguous. It could be about Heather or Linda, and I don't think Paul's come out on record saying one way or the other.
He has,
but I think it's. Has he?
Yeah.
He said
I'm fairly certain he said it was about the night that he met Linda, and he said that he was going to let her go out of because she'd got her coat on to leave this club. And they hadn't spoken to each other, during the evening, really. But he decided to get up just as she was leaving. He got up and said, "Hi, I'm Paul," and introduced himself. And he kind of said he could so easily have not done that. It was just one of those spur of the moment things. He could have just let her leave.
Okay, well that makes it a much better track for obvious reasons. If it's about Linda, it's about Heather, then get it. But I mean, I think Magic and I Do are two of the highlights of the album. I really do. Pun not intended.
Yeah. Again, I Do.
I think they're great love songs.
I've got written down I Do is a permission song from both Linda and Heather. Linda to, is it okay for me to let go? But it's also, I think, to Heather saying, do you mind if I still think about Linda? Yeah. I think that's what I took from it. Hello again, and well, that's the end of part one. Hopefully you'll come back for part two, and the link will be somewhere here